It's time for the discovery segment of the show. Now, I have in studio two very interesting gentlemen. They are coming from Theater des Ostens. Now, I have Felix Maria Zeppenfeld, and I also have Sahba Sahebi. Let me welcome them. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm good.
All right. Okay. And I understand that you're doing a research for theater.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we're basically part of a group of 4 artists, consisting the 2 of us, plus Sophie Stückle, another German artist,
okay,
more fine arts, and then Kwame Aidu,
okay,
who is Ghanaian and whom we met in Berlin.
I see.
So for a long time there was the wish of making a cooperation in theater, as Kwame hosts quite a big festival here, the Kabom Literary Art Festival. And we were thinking about possibilities of cooperation, and then we came up with 2 topics that were interesting, and also with the idea to research for a theater production that we're now trying to schedule for March in Accra, and also then bring it to Berlin and possibly Hamburg, two big German cities.
Okay,
yeah.
So tell us about this concept of how to find gold.
How to Find Gold was the original title, or is right now the title of the project, and it started off in conversations that we had with Kwame, and we came up with the idea of talking about gold, or that might be an interesting topic, because we thought gold to us reflects both one thing in like a market system, or an idea of exchange and as a currency, and on the other side Kwame explained to us that gold has a traditional meaning, or a traditional way of how it's used in Ashanti culture. And we thought this dichotomy between these 2 ways how it's perceived or what it is might be an interesting starting point for to find out about a culture, to find out about the relationship between Germany and Ghana in some ways. And from that we, especially because we were interested in the relationship between what could be a topic that connects those 2 countries.
Okay.
And so we had gold on the one side, and then we stumbled upon this philosopher whose name is Anton Wilhelm Amo.
Okay, Anton Amo. Okay.
And he was born in the beginning of the 19th century in Ghana, and he then was brought as a small child and a slave to Germany.
Okay.
And there he ended up becoming the first African philosopher in Europe. And that was just from when I read it the first time, was just a fascinating story. How did that happen? And what happened there exactly?
And at that time specifically, it's
exactly.
It's hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine. It's like the mid of the 18th century, and slavery is still going on. And the way.
So this was actually before the First World War.
That was way before the First
World War. 200 years before the First World War. This was when slavery was still going on. And he was brought there as a slave. And so the way, of course, the way African people were treated in Europe in general was absolutely not good. They were treated as slaves mostly. And so we were asking ourselves, how did this person achieve such a success?
Yeah.
What happened there? And what was his thoughts? And so we had these 2 topics, and our main goal, or one of our goals, was
actually to connect the 2.
Yeah, to connect to what could, because first of all they don't have anything in common at the first sight.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I mean, how did you do that? So is there a connection?
There is a connection, actually. There's a quite fascinating connection, I think, because as we learned on our journey here in Ghana, we were in Kumasi, Obuasi, and Takwa, and Shama. We learned that gold is not only a currency, but also is considered a spirit.
Wow. Okay.
And now,
tell us about that.
Yeah, and now there's a very interesting connection, because Amo, in his works, in the second thesis that he wrote, he talks a lot about spirits and what a spirit is.
Okay.
And so we thought, what would Amo say to certain phenomena? How do you say? Phenomena of this world, and how would he perceive the world right now with this idea of a spirit?
Okay.
And so our idea was to evocate the spirit of Amo himself by discussing some of his ideas that he had with people we met on the journey. So they were this whole concept of spirit became quite essential, because it sort of connected all these different topics.
Yeah.
And
because also when you start researching gold, and you talk to people from the mining industry. We talk to small-scale miners that have now are now doing their legal business, but still on a very small scale. And
Yes.
I don't know what the Chinese do when they dig for gold. It was hard to get into that. It was a bit like not so easy to access that,
Yes.
and that would take a longer research period, I guess. But the people we talked to that worked in the what's formerly known as Galamsey,
Yes.
there was a lot of talk about sacrifices, sacrifices for gold, and also the Tuesday is in the mines is like the holy day. You
Okay.
don't go to work on a Tuesday, and then from time to time a man, a juju man or a priest goes there and does the sacrifice. And these concepts, like coming from Europe, they're very interesting because it's first of all it's unusual, and it took some time to understand why so many people believe that gold needs blood. So we tried to dig into that, and we didn't. I mean, we tried also to leave some how do you say that? To leave some concepts behind as well.
Okay.
In order to really understand someone, I think it's always important to not judge too much from what you think you know already,
Yes.
and to just really listen.
Yes, yes.
And,
so
and
what
doing
did you?
that-
So what did you find about why gold needs blood?
Oh, that was an interesting answer. Actually, that would be a perfect clip to now show. But
Because we have, that's one thing just to add that, we have produced a little film or video that documents the whole journey,
Okay.
and also documents the interviews that we had. And yeah, exactly, that question we asked quite often, and we got, I think, several different answers.
Okay.
I think in the last interview, it was, well, for me, it was one of the most interesting, or what
most
was...
enlightening answer.
Yeah, most enlightening answers in a way that said it's a basic principle of life that you get life and you have to be thankful. So you're like in a relationship of debt somehow. Is that?
I don't think he said it that way. He didn't say you get
Yeah.
life and you have to be thankful, but he said gold is something dear and is something very precious, and
Okay.
blood also is something very precious. You
Yes.
cannot make blood,
No.
as also you cannot make gold.
Yeah.
There was like in Europe there was a whole several hundred years where people tried to make gold and it's not possible, and it's also not possible to make blood. So he said you have to pay with something dear.
Okay.
Yeah,
To
it's-
get something dear, you have to
get-
pay with
yeah,
something
exactly.
dear. I
And
see.
that is also like a general, or we try to find out if that's like a general concept or general idea, like with something dear. If you want love, what do you have to? What do
Yeah,
you
that
have-
was interesting. Yeah. Yeah,
what do you have to pay with when you want love?
Yeah.
And that interview, in that particular interview, Michael said you pay with time, with time you give. So that was one interview, or these kind of interviews that I think were the most interesting, where we started off at one topic and then it led us to a whole bunch of other ideas, belief systems, and that was a very interesting, like, ongoing conversations that we had with the people, starting off with gold and amour, and trying to combine these concepts at the spirit, like with the question of what's the spirit and how do you communicate with the spirit. Because that also for me particularly is, or for all of us, is a very interesting question that arose, because in one interview that we did, a guy said that he believes that now times people lost the ability to communicate with the old spirits, with the ancestors.
Okay.
And he sees that as like sort of a spiritual crisis. And the question arose: how do you communicate with these ancestors? In what
Okay.
in what ways? In what
Okay.
particular ways?
So you had your preparation before you came to Ghana. You got to Ghana, you started doing your interviews and your research around here. For you, what is the most memorable or most maybe critical discovery that you've found doing your research here?
That's a good question.
For me, most memorable, I think before we went, we also found out we have a common interest on these two topics, but there's also individual interests for each one of us, personally and artistically. And for me, the most memorable thing, it wasn't one occasion, but it was the general fact of being surrounded by people who believe in magic or who believe in
The
certain energies within nature, in between people, and that's to me that was very fascinating, and that made a strong impression on me, because it's also a belief system that I'm attracted to that already before, but it's hard to in Germany it's hard to find or to connect to people in that way, and here it seems to be a general notion, and it's easy to talk to people about certain things, and that to me made a very strong impression. It wouldn't be so easy for me to like point out one like really shocking event that I witnessed or something. Maybe if I think a bit more. But
what about you, Sahba?
I think it was the encounterment with certain people. I cannot for example, Michael. I mentioned him that we did the last interview with, and actually Felix met him at first, and he was he helped us with this video, because he went to the place where gold is washed, and he took the camera because it was a little bit difficult for Felix to get there. And Michael did those videos, and he did amazing work. Shout out to Michael on this occasion. And he came to us. He came with us back to Accra, and we invited him because Felix and we are both actually theater makers, and we gave 2 workshops, and Michael came with us to do these workshops. Like he was a participant in these workshops, and that was just like it was just like to really get to know him, and he has got like this whole complete different story that obviously background and belief system and everything, and yet we found a way to I feel really get to know each other, and that was just for me the most special thing.
Yeah, it was his first time in Accra as well, and he was really happy to be there.
Yeah. I find something interesting, and I want to find out what you guys think about this. You know, in the Western world, you have one of the most powerful displays of belief in the supernatural through the Harry Potter books.
Yeah.
Right? Now, how would you find that, basic belief that there must be something supernatural, aside of us here, right? Compare that with the way we believe in the supernatural, because it's easy to say.
It's banned, though. I feel like in Western Europe it's banned in fiction.
Really,
it's like it's Lord of the Rings, it's Harry Potter, it's even Game of Thrones.
Yes,
it's so people there is an interest in it.
Okay,
but
need,
it's a need or something for something happens that's out of the physical reality that we see every day.
Yeah,
but it's banned in art, and it's banned in literature and movies. I wouldn't call it a belief system. As in
it's taboo. You can't go there.
Yes, you cannot. Yes, it's actually taboo. I would say mostly. Like there are certain like esoteric circles, but I don't even know if you want to enter them. But it's if you really stand there and say, I believe that this is true, or this could happen, or I believe I'm cursed, you end up in psychiatry. There's no,
It's not a direct way from that.
Yeah, well, there are some people that don't, but I'm pretty sure there's like most people would regard that as something not right. There's something not right with a person.
Okay, so why do you think let me say Germany as the main example in the context of the rest of Europe, is this way now as a society compared to the days of, let's say, Martin Luther, for example?
Yeah, very different. Yeah.
Usually because Martin Luther was a very, very spiritual person.
Of course,
and believed in God and talked about God and preached the Bible and so on. So if you juxtapose those two periods in time, why do you, just briefly?
I mean,
we have a few seconds to go.
Briefly, this is like a process of 500 years, and probably the main thing is called secularization, and the question of why it happened. It has to do with economical, technical, like a new constellation of society. I think that arose. I do not believe you cannot put it in one sentence, but I believe you can say that there's a certain need, desire for a different way of being together, and I think spirituality is one element in that.
I would say that for me there's two main elements that consist that are responsible for that change, and the one is capitalism, and the other one is science. So
Okay.
science took over the role of being able to explain the phenomena of the world quite good as well.
Okay.
So you don't need any belief in God to explain thunder. Like that's the most easy part. But science took over that, and then capitalism took over that being like an object being holy, or like the iPhone being something that you know, and
you still
brands
have-
being
this-
something holy.
This is
as well.
something that is, became sacred in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll be speaking to Felix Maria Zeppenfeld and Sahba Sahebi. They are both from Theater des Osten. And they talked about a video that they have been working on. And let's take a look at that before we go.
So if you are linking back to what we said about how gold is a spirit, if it is really a spirit, why is it that in the olden days the spirit was more friendly to people?
Because people were doing things right.
Because they were doing things right, and they knew how to communicate
people were
with
doing
the
things
spirits. Right now, we don't.
So our spirituality
has gone down.
It's diminished.
Has gone down.
If I don't call you, you wouldn't come. If I don't know your name, how would I call you? How would you come to me? Our forefathers are like that. Whatever we pray or whoever we call through prayer, they come to us. That's why we believe they come to help us. So right now, me for instance, I don't know how to call like this, do all those things.
And do you think like you can find? Do you think there's a way back into finding the right form of communication?
Sure.
Yeah.
There is. But right now, if you are still communicating in that way, the society here will frown at you in some way because people see it as something that is too old, something that is of the devil, something that is, you know.
Okay.
So we can't really see so many things that was happening because it was believed that the gods were showing us love.
Yeah.
When it rains, you can even get gold, you can get money.
Yeah.
We are showing you love, but now you are not talking to me.
Yeah.
You don't call me. You are even trying to fight me in your prayers and all that. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, not to have to menu. Chichinano, no. Now, it's an animal. Listen, as not to America. And I also, not to Amon Padua.
Brother, on the Tuesday, brother Tuesday. On the brother one call. That time, you know, the spiritual man will come. Confirm the banner wa baba BBA or be made to go then. Talk about Obucha opportunity and then igonity. Na other two, a quan ye from Yadokon, or that two. Ama Nimpabiala who say when tap pointina and the sometime Nimpo to me and I check a bosomono or the impasse. Inside the Debiano, or yeah, brand Debian, you trap on you bush one. No was in it in order to a quan nano, Naboson Bafa. No was in Cano, Mojan would go around. And then we are 1 year, we are any good in my head. Yari.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Citi Tube.
For exclusive breakfast daily content and other Citi TV programs.
Like, comment, and share with your friends.